Micah, how you feeling?
I mean, I'm honestly utterly disgusted on how lucky the Eagles are.
With the 40th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Cooper DeJean, DB, Iowa.
Hey y'all, today of course it's Matt Rogers on the Honorable Mention podcast, which is mostly a Philly sports podcast. Today we have OJ Spivey, a sports and culture journalist from the Philadelphia Tribune. He covers all manners of topics over there. Please don't forget to leave a subscribe and a like on here. Help us get this thing out here. We know a lot of people are competing for, there's a million content creators and people, well, of questionable content and good content, and they're all competing for your time, and you're spending time with us, so thank you so much. OJ, before we even get into talking about the different people that the Eagles selected during the NFL draft, which I thought was a good draft for the Eagles, we have to talk about putting to bed the canard that AJ Brown was going to be traded, because they did do a 3-year $96 million, as we had told folks was going to happen. So let's just jump into that first.
Well, as I wrote in my latest article for the Philadelphia Tribune, the Eagles, of course, extended A.J. Brown, gave him a 3-year, $96 million extension, and I think that keeps him here through, I think, 2029, I believe. So, I mean,
I know it was 28 at least. So, yeah,
right.
So it's a while.
29, right. I have it in that article. But anyway, that put to bed all the nonsense. And, we had talked about this before where, you just have guys, you just have, talk show hosts or people who just want to, just throw stuff out there for banter and for chatter and everything. And there was never any legs to it, never any insight or no scoops from within the Eagles and everything. They saw one incident where, every wide receiver, wants the ball. I mean, this goes back to the Michael
Come
Irving.
on.
So he didn't care whether he was covered or not. He would want the ball. He would tell Troy Aikman that all the time. So,
yeah, I
mean, there's nothing new with this. And then, always thought, even during the season when it happened, that it's all overblown. And, you don't become the godfather of someone's child and all of a sudden you're not friends anymore, you don't have beef, and how us black folks are in the community and everything, right. How serious we take godparents. So
that's right.
We'll just,
and I mean, it's friendship. It just because you're friends with somebody doesn't mean that you don't have a spat or a disagreement or some frustration with them. That doesn't mean that you're not friends, though, or that there's a fundamental rupture in the relationship where the Eagles would need to go on and take a huge salary cap hit to get him out of town. I mean, it was always ridiculous. It was just people wanted to replay the Terrell Owens thing, and it was because he's a big buff receiver. I just really, other than that, I don't understand what the comparison was.
Yeah, that was the discourse too, and I just liken it to the old scene in Lean on Me with Robert Guillaume and Morgan Freeman when they say, I'm the HNIC, you know what I mean? And, they argue with each other and take shots at each other. And then, at the end of the day, they say, now let's go get something to eat, So, but you know how we are as brothers, man, they and the brothers and everything, listen, I've seen old black men in their 60s and 70s argue, and then, where are they arguing? They're arguing in the Dunkin' Donuts, or they're arguing,
right.
In a diner or something like that.
Right.
So, or they may argue on the street or something over a poker game or a game of checkers or something. And what they do, they go get something to eat.
That's right. That's right. Fundamentally, it wasn't a reason for them to have a breakup. That was all overblown. I just wanted to put that to bed, and I ain't talking about it no more.
Well, in all seriousness, as I wrote about, it just shows the commitment that the Eagles have to not only A.J. Brown, also They extended Devontae Smith, a week or two before, and that just shows the commitment that they have to those two guys, and also Jalen Hurts as well. I mean, these guys are pretty much signed till the end of the decade, pretty much.
Yep.
So it goes to show you that while some teams claim to be all in, I'm not going to say any names.
That's right.
The Eagles are all in, which we'll, of course, talk about further.
Correct. So speaking about all in, they had a hell of a draft. Let me just run through these, and then we can get into whatever ones that are most of interest to you. At 22, they grabbed Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback from Toledo. At number 40 overall, they grabbed DB from Iowa, Cooper DeJean. Jalinx Hunt, outside linebacker from Houston Christian. At 94 overall, Will Shipley, running back from Clemson at 127. Aniyah Smith, wide receiver from Texas A&M, 152 overall. New fan favorite, Jeremiah Trotter, linebacker from Clemson at 155 overall. Trevor Keegan, guard from Michigan, 172 overall. Big guy, Johnny Wilson, 6'6", wide receiver from Florida State, 185 overall. And Dylan McMahon, guard/center from NC State, 190 overall. Let's start with the DBs. Do you think they're both start year one?
That's tough to say for me right now. I think the way we have to look at these two DBs is the future, pretty much. There's a chance that Quinyon Mitchell can play, depending on what they do with the starting corners. Everybody presumes or assumes, I should say, that James Bradbury won't be on the team next year. I mean, until we see it, maybe he's a June 1st cut. We're not sure.
Right.
But until we see him cut, he's still on the team, and we still have to assume that he's on the team. But I think Howie Roseman did a great job of just stacking the cupboard this draft overall. But when you talk about Mitchell, you talk about DeJean. Do I think Mitchell has a chance to play a lot this year? Yes. They're going to see where they like him best. I project him as being, that heir apparent at one of the corner positions, outside corner positions. So we'll see how he comes along.
That's why you draft him there.
Right. Exactly. And, they had their choices of the cornerbacks that they could pick, whether that be Arnold or, a few of the other guys that were highly touted, but they really seemed to like Mitchell, who they scouted a lot. Eagles always have a heavy presence at the Senior Bowl. So he showed out there, which raised his stock, also the combine as well. So they really like Mitchell, and I think they believe that he's the best cornerback to fit in Vic Fangio's scheme. You have the guy now. You don't have any disciples.
That's right.
That defensive scheme is Fangio.
Not Diet Dr. Pepper. You got the real thing. Huh?
Exactly. So, I don't want to give him any high praise or anything, but I'll just throw this out there. Do the Eagles see Mitchell as the de facto Patrick Surtain, as everybody has wants the Eagles to trade for? Obviously, that doesn't seem like
it's not happening. They're not giving him up.
But do they see Mitchell as someone in the likeness of Patrick Surtain? So we'll see about that. With DeJean, automatically when I see his tape, I see his film, I see it as his athleticism, which is a plus. I really believe that they're going to groom him as a safety, or I would say a fringe safety. Some are comparing him, I don't want to say so much as a player himself, but as far as versatility is concerned, like a Malcolm Jenkins. So and you have all this whole white cornerback troop. I'm not going to go there, but I really.
But they got the white running back, they got the white corner. It's a fun experiment, because you usually don't see those guys and they're going to be cooking. I think they both will play well next season.
Yeah, but I really do see him as a fringe safety, someone that they can move around, maybe play some coverage. But the good thing about someone like DeJean, he can cover. He can cover. So you're gonna need, whether you're a corner or a safety, you definitely need safeties who cover in this day and age. So if he could be that fringe guy and just move him around here and there, The more versatile guys you have on defense, especially in the secondary, the better are you off. So the better you are. That's how I see him, and I think he can contribute right away too.
There's going to be great competition in the preseason for that back half. I mean, there's a bunch of spots. I mean, other than Slay, I mean, pretty much everybody's competing. You have 6-7 guys, but they all say except for with the exception of Avonte Maddox, everybody's like, I'm an outside guy. I can play outside. I can lock up whoever.
Exactly.
Put me on CD, coach. So
yeah,
so
the cornerback room is very, very
crowded
right now.
It is.
So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to fall off, because the Eagles seemed last year to believe in a lot of the other young guys like Ricks and who else am I thinking of? Ringo, especially. I mean, I still expect Ringo to be in the mix. We'll see what happens with Ricks, and then you have some of the other guys too. But the cornerback room is very crowded, so we'll see who's the last guy standing.
It's going to be interesting. Another interesting thing that's coming up is Anaya Smith. I cut the tape on. Obviously, there's so many guys, so you only get to watch so much of everything. And when I cut the tape on, I saw DeAndre Swift with hands. I mean, he was physical. He's I think 5'9", right. A $190. A $190 doesn't sound that big, but on a 5'9" frame, that's pack and punch right there. He was finishing. He finishes going forward. He could run on gadget plays. I mean, what are you expecting? What are you expecting out of him? Are they gonna? You think that he's gonna take some time to really make a difference, or he's somebody who people should watch for maybe week 1, 2, 3?
I really like this pick. I really like Anaya Smith. I love his film. I love his versatility. And, you talked about his size. I mean, Eagles had a guy here in a couple of stints, Deshaun Jackson. So similar size. And I think maybe Deshaun was maybe a little taller, but maybe even a little thinner. But Smith looks like he can do a lot with the football. And with this new offense, or this new perceived offense with Kellen Moore, and, we'll see what he can do, because the one thing the Eagles need more, I don't want to say more than anything, but one of the big needs for the Eagles offensively is who's going to be that third receiver, who's going to be that slot guy, who's going to be that guy that can move around and just move the chains when, someone's trying to double team A.J. Brown or Vontae Smith. For some reason, Dallas Goedert can't get open, but, you had to have that extra added weapon. And you probably can bring him out of the backfield, instead of running quarterback screens and quarterback sweeps with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith getting them hurt, which we saw a little bit of that last year. You can let Smith do that because, he has that speed. And
he does.
When you look at other weapons, you look at, receivers that Kansas City has, and then, is he going to be in the like of a Rice? Who knows if he's going to play this year? If he's going to be in the likeness of a Tyreek Hill, Smith can probably be that guy, or just be that third wide receiver that you just can't cover. Like, we're paying so much attention to Brown, we're paying so much attention to Devontae Smith, and you have the other Smith,
that's
Smith,
right.
Who, they just can't cover, and they, someone who can kind of get them out of trouble, because as we saw last year, some of the offense got kind of stale and stagnant, and he can really do a whole lot of things. And let's say you put him in the backfield with Barkley and had one of those guys circle out of backfield, that's going to be a tough matchup too. So we'll see, and hopefully Smith will come along as fast as some people hope him to be.
Absolutely. Another guy who could be that third down receiver or gadget player would be Will Shipley from Clemson. He again, cut the tape on, and I see a lot of, now I'm not saying he is Christian McCaffrey.
Don't say CMC.
he gets that CMC spark. He's like, he has a CMC like. Now he probably is Diet Dr. Pepper, but I'll take it. I'll take as your 4th, 5th, 6th option.
CMC like.
CMC light.
not as much calories, right? But anyway,
No, that's right.
Yeah, I think this was a smart pick here. You do need some depth in running back. You also need versatility at that position too. I mean, that's kind of what the Eagles have been looking for. I don't want to say looking for, but kind of what they've been lacking at certain positions. So he'll be a nice maybe change of pace for Barkley if he can cut in there and be that second running back. I guess people probably already tend to like him better than Gainwell already because he sees to do more things. He doesn't seem to me as being as big or as strong as a Christian McCaffrey. We'll see how he progresses, in the NFL game. Correct. Because a lot of guys get in the weight room once they reach the next level. But I'm not as high on him as some of the other picks. But I think he could have a positive impact on the team.
Yeah, I mean they only run the ball but so much, but
keep that in mind. Yeah, but again, maybe another weapon that they can have out of the backfield to maybe catch or circle out, maybe run some screens. We'll see.
Absolutely, and as a kick return, punt return kind of guy, I think he and Cooper DeJean could make it a fun little competition for the summer. We'll make the practices and the preseason games worth watching.
Smith too. Yes. I mean, you now have three guys who are pretty much capable of returning kicks.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting. I expect one of these guys to at least, probably not so much DeJean because I think they're really going to groom him for defense.
Yeah.
But I can easily see Nia Smith and or Shipley returning kicks. We'll see.
And so Covey might be the odd man out.
Well, I want to say
Covey played really well. He played really well.
He did. He did have a coming of age. But Covey being more so punt returner. I think you could either see Shipley or Smith as a kickoff guys, especially if you don't see like
kickoff actually matters now.
Scott. Yeah, because what you can do now with kickoff returns, with the rule changes and everything, this is very important. I think that's part of the reason why the Eagles went deep with these guys. More than one guy who can return kicks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you on that. You think this year it'll be? Speaking of special teams, unfortunately, do you think that this is the year that maybe Nakobe Dean breaks through, or is Eagles' new fan favorite Jeremiah Trotter going to be taking him over there?
I think it's still going to be Dean's job to lose. I don't even believe it's going to be a competition. But even though he's a third-round pick, I just believe that they're still high on him, and he just hasn't had the opportunity because he's been injured. And as we talked about before, when he's been in there, he hasn't been necessarily a playmaker. But I think he did add some stability, and I think he was solid, if not good, at making the right defensive calls. Because if you look back last season, during the time that he was in there, their defense was pretty solid.
It was.
It wasn't a disaster as we saw towards the middle and then the end of the season. And again, he may not be the playmaker that we want him to be right now. He still needs the opportunity to be that playmaker. But half the battle of defense is just calling the right signals, being in the right defense. And with that, you have to have the right signal call. You have to have the right captain who's calling your defense.
You're right. I hope it is the year, because I think short of kind of the size, Nakobe Dean has all the tools to be a good modern linebacker. They're still pretty small linebacker. I will say that, even with Trotter, and you think of Trot Jr., you think of his dad. His dad played at 260. And Can you imagine a 260 linebacker in this day and age? But he also had speed too. So and when they failed to re-sign him the first time, you saw the difference, and especially with that championship game where Tampa Bay ran all over them. Right. They had all their current linebackers chasing guys. But anyway, I think the Trot Jr. pick
it was very cool. I know they had their eyes on him for a while. He did drop to a spot where they can take him in a safe spot. I think he can make plays. You try not to, put too much expectations on mid to late round picks and everything. But with his work ethic, with his legacy and everything, I think he's going to make the team. It's not going to be a charity case or anything like that, but I think he's going to make the team. It's just a matter of time to see, if he'll be a contributor right away.
Absolutely. Before we get over to the Sixers, we got to talk about Haason Reddick getting traded. How do you think that they make up for that production, or is that even possible this year?
Well, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, man. I mean, it has to come from Bryce Huff. I mean, they paid him essentially what they could have paid Haason Reddick. So they're putting all their eggs in Bryce Huff to get to the passer. And also Josh Sweat. So Josh Sweat was the much younger player, of course. So they invested in him. He has to bring it. And, another thing that we, probably discussed off air, if I recall, that you'd like to think that Josh Sweat is a much better player than what he showed last year.
He has to be.
In that disastrous scheme, right? And he's still very young. So between Sweat and between Huff, I mean, the pressure really, I won't say falls on one or the other, because Huff is really the guy that replaced Haason Reddick, but really the pressure is on both guys because, I mean, Sweat got his money. Huff is here as a replacement. So definitely they both have to get off to a good start.
Absolutely. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break to talk about the Sixers.
You guys have always had such great home court advantage here. How strange was it for you the past two games with the significant amount of Knicks fans in the house?
Disappointing. I love our fans. Think it's unfortunate, and I'm not calling them out, but it is disappointing. Obviously you got a lot of Knicks fans, and they're down the road and never seen it. And I've been here for 10 years. Kind of pisses me off, especially because Philly is considered a sports town. So, they've always shown up, and I don't think that should happen. It's not okay.
All right. We're back. As I said earlier, there are a lot of content creators competing for your interest. So thank you for continuing to listen to this podcast. Please leave a like and subscribe, and also go follow OJ at OJ Philly all over the place. And I'll let him plug his other handles later at the end. Earlier today, OJ, the Philadelphia Sixers fell down 3-1 to the New York Knicks. Pretty frustrating game. Joel Embiid is in the post-game interview, I think, candidly and honestly calling out the Sixers fans for letting the New York Knicks fans come and take over the stadium. I mean, what are your initial thoughts after the Sixers they're pretty much over? They're pretty much done.
Yeah, as I was, covering the game at Wells Fargo Center, watching the game, first of all, they squandered 2 10-point leads, and that was disappointing in and of itself. But all throughout the game, I kept looking at the shooting percentage, and I was like, even when they were up 10, they were still shooting under 40%.
In the 30s, yeah.
How are they winning this game? And it's really more bizarre than and more disappointing than game 2. As you called it, the ref game. Because you look at their shooting, but then again, you look at the Knicks supporting cast. I think they only had 3 guys in double figures, and of course, Jalen Brunson went off and got 47 points. But the Sixers, 4 of their starters were in double figures, but they still lost. But they just missed so many opportunities to win this game. Number one, the shooting, of course. The evergreen, the evergreen stat of, offensive rebounds, allowing the offensive rebound.
Oh my God, it was horrible.
And then I didn't necessarily like their offensive schemes. I mean, they had too many possessions to where they didn't know what to do, too many bad shots. And even when they had good shots, they had good looks at the basket. I mean, I think the Knicks had double-digit blocks today. I mean, the Sixers were just getting to the basket and just not finishing, or
including Joel Embiid getting swatted,
blocking their shots, right? And we even saw a attempted dunk by Nico Batum. He couldn't finish. I mean, when you're that big and everything, you gotta finish. You gotta finish, or even get fouled. And that was another disappointing thing, because they were getting to the basket and not getting fouled. I mean, sometimes, you get calls and sometimes you don't, but you have to ensure that you at least get fouled if you're going to miss that close to the basket. But I also thought some of their defensive philosophy against Brunson was a little bit questionable. They did play good defense at times, but, it was only a matter of time until Brunson was going to get off, and then he got 47 points. You didn't anticipate that. They needed all the 47 points from him, because again, the Knicks didn't get a whole lot of contributions from everybody else. He just got enough, and the Sixers didn't get enough. I mean, when you only have Joel Embiid, you hold on Joel Embiid under 30 points. That's a success. Maxey didn't have a good shooting day, and again, who else was going to step up? I mean, you had a little bit of a spark from Campaign. Oubre was kind of, on and off at times. I didn't think Batum got as many shots. I thought all the 3-point shot attempts that Oubre got, that should have been Batum. Maybe they made one too many passes, because Batum, he passed up a couple of open
absolutely
threes. And that's really your hottest hand off the bench. And you have to rely on him. You have to have him shoot you out of a funk. Especially in crunch time when they were down. You have to get him the ball and have him shoot from outside. And it was also disappointing to see both Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey combining for 6 points in the fourth quarter. That just cannot happen.
It was Embiid had and he doesn't deserve the. People probably aren't going to talk about it, but the moment where he pump faked and completely declined to shoot the open jumper there at the end, and then tried to go in and get the contact and missed the layup, didn't get the. It was a little bit of a Ben Simmons situation. Well, at least he went and shot the ball.
Well, with that, man, I kind of defend him on that, because people talk to me at nauseum and say, why doesn't he go to the basket? Why don't he go to the basket?
True.
Now you want him to shoot.
Yeah.
Now you want him to be an outside shooter. So you can't have it both ways. You really can't. I don't fault him there. I mean, because he saw a avenue to the basket, he just didn't finish. But I mean,
True.
you cannot criticize someone his size for finally going to the basket, right? But then you say, oh yeah, well he should have shot his jump shot. I don't fault him for that. And then going back to the thing with the whole Knicks fans, I mean, that was kind of crazy, because even when I was up in the press box, I was high up in the press box today, overhead, and even after the game was over, you still heard the Knicks fans in the mezzanine and on the concourse. You heard them say, F and B and everything. I haven't seen anything like this since the old days, maybe the early days of Citizen Bank Park, when Mets fans would trickle down. And even, I'm old enough to remember where Mets fans would bum rush the vet. And, it'd be more Mets fans cheering than Phillies fans. But, some people were talking on social media saying, it's embarrassing that Sixers fans would sell their tickets and make them available for Knicks fans to get. But on the other hand, I think there's some apathy with Sixers fans. And at the end of the day, and I know Joel Embiid was upset, he hated to hear it, but at the end of the day, I think Sixers fans are just pretty much sending a message to say, show me after the second round.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced. I'm not going to, we're not going to fill the place up with all of us unless you get us out of the second round. I mean, it's been year after year after year, and now you see, a couple different seasons packed in there that, they can't get out of the first round. I mean, it's not all. I don't put this all on Embiid. I just think besides him and Maxey, and maybe even throw in Kyle Lowry, but I thought he didn't play as well today. But essentially, besides Embiid and Maxey, I mean, who can you rely on game after game after game, especially if those two guys are anywhere off? There's really nobody you can rely on. I mean, it's pretty much why the series is 3-1, because the Knicks, they have just enough of a supporting cast, and you saw even when Brunson didn't play well, they got 2 games. So and then they got their third victory where Brunson finally went off. I mean, he went off a little bit in game 3, but 47 points, and they needed it. When they needed him the most, he came through. And again, they just have a better supporting cast.
Is Embiid just never going to be healthy at this time of the year? Once we get to the playoff stretch, is it just fair at this point to just say this is just kind of who he is? I won't go as far as saying that, but you would just probably just have a lot of wear and tear now. I mean, Embiid is really going through a lot. I mean, he's had Absolutely. Yeah.
Not only has he been, it's not like just nagging injuries like maybe like your average player, but Embiid has been through so much. I mean, you look back at his he didn't play his first 2 seasons, eligible seasons, I should say, because of, the foot surgery. I mean, he's had to have foot surgery a couple times just to even get on the court. I mean, I didn't even think at that time that he would ever play because I had, big man syndrome, big man trauma, thinking of Greg Oden. Thinking of back in the day, Bill Walton, and then Jeff Rulin, the guy they traded Moses Malone for back in the day, who never played I won't say he never played a game. I mean, I think he only maybe not even played a dozen games for the Sixers.
Oh, wow.
But, you had that big man injury trauma. But, I mean, he's been a magnificent player, and if he wasn't injured this year, he would have been a back-to-back MVP.
Yep, correct.
But I think you have to assume that you're going to nurse some of his injuries, but because he's such a popular player, because he is the franchise, he's going to be looked at differently. But every player has nagging injuries, but his are just going to be magnified because of his position and because of his status.
They got to get somebody else in this offseason who can carry the load.
I agree.
When Joel's out, let Joel be gravy in some ways. Unfortunately,
well, they need another star first and foremost to pair with Embiid and Maxey, who is. I don't know what they're scoring around with, because if I looked at it correctly, Maxey's eligible to be a restricted free agent. So, I mean, who knows going to pop up and give? Well, Sixers, they got a match.
They're going to pay him. They're going to pay him.
They have
at this point. You go through not even offering him in trades for Lillard or whoever the names are.
Yeah, that would just be detrimental. That would just be detrimental to the entire fan base. You can't even possibly allow that to happen. But going back to the original,
people might go be Knicks fans.
Yeah, there you go. But going back to your original point, Matt, they just have to find this. I don't know who that is, because it's not a big free agent pool where you can say,
DeRozan?
Okay, oh yeah, let's go after this superstar. But DeRozan is also 35, 36 now.
He's an older fella, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's talking about Paul George. I mean, he's almost about the same age. There's wear and tear on Paul George, but I think he stayed healthy for the most part this year. I mean, could be. I mean, they may just have to settle for Paul George. Who knows? But they just need that third star. And then after that, because I guess right now, the only 2 guys who are really signed for next year are Joel Embiid and Paul Reed. Everybody else is a crapshoot. I mean, we'll throw Maxey in there as because
they're going to do that
as an educated presumption. But
it's like Devontae Smith a couple weeks ago.
Right, exactly. So we're talking just 3 guys, and then everybody else. I mean, at this point, here's another presumption. Do you bring Oubre back? I mean, I mentioned to you off air
Yep.
that
you get a good deal on it.
You most likely get a good deal with Oubre because he's not going to cost a lot, and he's not that well liked from what I've been told from my sources, that he's not that well liked across the league. So they're probably going to say, "Hey, Sixers, you can have him. We're not going to pay him a lot. So he wasn't paid a lot this year. So he's probably not going to cost a pretty penny."
So if you were Nick Nurse, do you inject Buddy Hield back into the lineup to try to get a spark, or you just ride with the hand that you've been dealing and hope that you hit shots? I mean, they're getting good open shots. Nick Nurse is drawing this thing up well. In my opinion,
they just
not connecting.
Yeah, they just shot horribly. In Game 4, they just shot horribly. So it's not like they haven't had opportunities. It's not that. The Knicks played well, at the basket with blocking shots and everything. But you look at their 3-point, I think they were, 8 or 9 for 33 or something like that. I don't even think they made that many 3-pointers, but I think they shot about 33 threes, right? So they had a horrible shooting day. They ended up Game 4 shooting percentage about 35%. So you're not going. As crazy as it is, they lost.
They even got close, right?
But you're still not going to win playoff games that way. So
cross on the offensive boards like that. That's
ridiculous. Well, we knew that was been a problem for the last couple of years, and they haven't really got anybody that can come in and rebound. I mean, that's another thing they have to address this off season. Get a rebounder. I don't care if that's all that he does. Get a rebound. Somebody that's going to do the dirty work. They don't, other than Kyle Lowry, they don't really have a guy that's going to do the dirty work. But just going back to potentially what they do in Game 5, you don't want to panic, so to speak. But then again, you kind of have to take the mentality as a baseball manager. I mean, all hands on deck. Whoever you can to find a spark. But I don't have that much faith. I don't have any faith in Buddy Hield at this point because, he, number one, he hasn't been a great fit here. I mean, he seemed to fit better when
Joel was out.
Joel was out because he was forced to play more at that point. But when he's in there, he's only really efficient if he's wide open for 3, and he can't even get himself open. I've watched him the first 3 games of this series. He can't get himself open. He's not that type of player.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
So before I let you go, OJ, at this point, they're about 40 games into the MLB season. Do the Phillies overtake the Braves and win the division this year? They have the same number of wins as of right now, but the Braves have fewer losses. They lost Spencer Strider.
So as we speak, they are a game and a half behind the Braves. But this is their best April start since 2011. So they've exceeded expectations. As much as some people may listen to sports talk radio and, complain here, still complain about Kyle Schwarber leading off and things
at 190 once again,
ad nauseum and everything, but it still works. It works with the lineup. They're 18-10. But what you really have to talk about is their pitching. Shorter today, and I'll give Taijuan Walker kind of a mulligan. For first thing, he might have been left in too long today, going back out for the 7th. But this is his first game back. I think he still got the win mathematically. But other than that, their starting pitching has been lights out. And I think going into today, I think they were like at 2.66 ERA. That's like brilliant in this day and age. Just having that, and Ranger Suarez, he's undefeated. He has close to a 1 ERA. You know what you're going to get with Wheeler, and you pretty much know what you're going to get with Nola and everything. So their pitching has really pushed them through, and now they're starting to hit. And I think there's a stat where they're 5-0, 6-0 when they score 5 or more runs.
Oh, okay.
So something of that nature. But it's early. It's April. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. But if you're a Phillies fan, it's hard for you to complain because they're 18-10, and year after year, you have to wait till June until they get going. So this is about as great a start as you could ever imagine the Phillies to have, this Phillies team anyway.
And talking about kind of just knowing who guys are, we also know we got enough tape to know Bryce Harper after August is a different baseball player. He could be fine. He's having a decent start. He's not having a bad start. Bryce Harper in August and September and October is he's just a different guy. And so that's if past his prologue, that's in the offing as well. He's going to warm up.
Yeah, he's the guy I worry about the least. You ain't got to worry about Bryce. I mean, they have to manage him as well. He's had his share of injuries too, but I think he'll be fine. As the weather keeps breaking, it's going to be warm this week, pretty much around the country. So we'll probably see the ball fly out a little more, especially from his perspective. And let's not forget about my guy Rojas, man. Everybody wanted to kick him to the curb.
Yep. That's right.
I mean, the kid hadn't even played 100 games in the big leagues.
Correct. And he batted 300 last season, by the way, folks. Like in the regular season, go look at what his stats were. He batted 300.
Right. Everybody just has a nightmare to playoffs and everything. But I mean, he's
because everybody sucked at the end of the playoffs. Everybody.
Yeah, they hit one something in the National League Championship Series as a team.
Come on.
Everybody, they hit under the Mendoza line as a squad. But yeah, Rojas is going to be fine. You have to just keep him in there for his defense alone. I mean, you saw the catch he made against San Diego this weekend. A center fielder doesn't make those catches. So, and again, what he gives you offensively is a bonus, and he's coming around. He's really going to come around once he gets on. He's in scoring position when you put him on first base, essentially.
Correct.
So.
Correct.
But I mean, if you look at Hall of Famers, man, I'm not saying he's going to be Hall of Fame. I'm not even going to say he's an all-star, but you look at some of the Hall of Famers.
He's a Gold Glover. I'll tell you
exactly. Yeah, potential Gold Glover. But if you look at some of the Hall of Famers, just take the time. Just look at some of the Hall of Famers. You look at their first year or two in the league. Look at their batting average. Can you imagine a manager not sticking with a Willie Mays, a manager not sticking with a Roberto Clemente, or a or Henry Aaron? Can you imagine that? I think Henry Aaron actually started out well, but guys like Willie Mays, I mean, they were really batting a little bit over 2, maybe like their first handful of games or their rookie season and everything. But what did they say? In those days, man, say, hey, you're my center fielder. And that's pretty much what the Phillies have to say. And we don't have any patience in sports these days. And baseball, being someone who's played it, I've coached it, I've even been an umpire. But baseball is a sport where you need the absolute most patience than any other sport. You really do. Absolutely. Because it's a game of failure, Matt. So you have to take it that way. But if the Phillies just say, hey, to Rojas, you're our center fielder, don't worry about it, we got you. Maybe they have quietly, but that's right. I think the fans need to know that too.
I mean, if everybody is doing their job, Johan Rojas at the dish is the least of anybody's concern.
It should be. It should be. And
I mean, seriously, if
we're putting more pressure on him,
we're getting mad at him, right?
Right. We're putting more pressure on him because of a lack of productivity with the lineup. So. But they're coming around.
He's taking pressure from Casty. He's taking pressure from, Alec Bohm is in league leaders in batting average. He's playing great. But
looking at another potential all-star. Right.
Yes. That's how it should be.
Even though it's tough to make the all-star game as a third baseman. But we'll see. We'll see. Phillies should have, if they're on the right path, they should have multiple all-stars this year. Suarez, perhaps Bohm. Harper may get there with voting. Who knows? And then you also got Wheeler and potentially Nola. So,
OJ, where can people follow you to show you some support and read your articles?
Yes, of course, my social media. If you're on Twitter, OJ Philly, Threads as well. You go to my Facebook page, OJ Spivey, award-winning journalist. as well. You can find all my pieces on there, all my articles. But I dabble around just about everything with social media, so you can just find me there. And again, my latest on the NFL draft with the Eagles, primarily selecting Mitchell and also extending AJ Brown.
Thank you so much for making time, OJ. Thank you all so much for listening. You could have listened to a lot of other podcasts, but you're still listening to me talk to you about the Philly sports. So thank you so much. You can follow me at POLITIDOPE on Threads. I don't do the old X machine as much anymore, but thank you all so much for listening.
Followed by Smith, scoops it up. Anias coming near side.